So, UFC 280 officially comes to a conclusion. Did the card live up to the hype? Of course it did. A bit of controversy when it comes to the decision results, but amazing bouts. We have a new lightweight champion of the world. Sean O'Malley shocks the world against Piotr Jan, but and still in the bantamweight division. Let's talk about that. Okay, first of all, I do want to talk about some prospects who put on a great performance on the prelims last night, who kind of lacked some recognition given how hyped the card was going into the main card, which is completely understandable. So I do want to talk about some stars from the early prelims and the official prelims last night. And first, I do want to talk about Muhammad Mokaev. Muhammad Mokaev is the real deal of the UFC's flyweight division. 22 years old, 3 fights this year, all in the sake of 7 months. Two finishes and one dominating decision. He's coming out. He won last night with a third round armbar submission over Malcolm Gordon, and he's now talking about a top 15 spot, which I think he should completely do. And he's now talking, he's been planning all fight weeks saying he wants to become the youngest champion of the UFC, which is by late 2023, early 2024, if he really wants to get that done. And I think he really can with the fan base of the UK behind him. To be honest with you, at 22 years old, with so much experience in his amateur background, I think Muhammad Mokaev is the future of the UFC when you talk about some young stars coming up under the 25 age category. So without a doubt, though, I think Muhammad Mokaev keeping this run and keeping that mindset that he has in camp that I have been seeing and the rest of the world has, Muhammad Mokaev definitely has what it takes if he wants to at least fight top 10, top 5 in the flyweight division by the mid of 2023. And then next, I do want to talk about Nikita Krylov. Amazing performance. Very, very underrated performance. A great year he has had. He came off with a dominating win back at UFC London in July by surprisingly first round taking out Alexander Gustafsson, a former title contender. And now taking out another former title contender and now has just ranked himself into the top 10 by taking out Volkan Oezdemir. It was a very experienced fight, and I'm very shocked that it was on the prelims. All those prelim fights could have easily made a fight night card if they really wanted to, which shows how stacked that UFC 280 was. But more particular on Nikita Krylov, an amazing performance, definitely deserved the recognition he got, and maybe deserves a little more, just ranked himself back into the top 10. And who is next for him? You know, taking out two title contenders, maybe someone like Anthony Smith, that would be that would be brilliant because both he's coming off a loss. He's just coming into the top 10. I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, someone else I do particularly want to talk about, who I think probably performance of the night, if you ask me, going in with all the doubters and how stacked the welterweight division is, and the job that he got done last night. Bilal Muhammad took out and ended the winning streak of Sean Brady, which really shocked me. I think one of the shockers of the night last night, and it was not what he did; it was more how he did it. With Habib Nurmagomedov in his corner, which people are calling the media, the public's calling an advantage. That's a whole nother talk for somewhere else. But Bilal Muhammad really put himself on the mat last night, and exactly remember the name. He put himself there to stay a little bit closer to title contention, really deserves close to an interim belt, or give him someone like Gilbert Burns right now, someone who is in the top 3, who fought for the title before, who just came off a war with Hamzat Chimaev. So without a doubt, do I think that Sean Brady can come back from this. He has his whole career ahead of him, one loss and a lot of experience to build from that fight. It was two grapplers standing, which shows that it was massive respect for each other's ground game. Now, Sean Brady, as you could see if you were watching, was going a lot for the takedown, trying to mix it up. Early in the fight, the first round, I did have it for Brady. And I was like, he's doing great right now, He's doing great for a very experienced fighter he's taken on in Bilal Muhammad. But look, it was the jab that I think it might have broke his nose or broken an orbital bone, as you could say. He was throwing that front kicks to keep his range, which I love to see. But yeah, remember the name is here to stay, and I was very impressed by Bilal Mohammed, probably performance of the night. And of course, now I do want to talk about the two title fights from last night. And just may I say that I am I feel so bad, completely unfortunate from the team and for TJ Dillashaw. Um, it seems like that guy just gets completely unlucky when it comes to injuries. You know, last fight he pulled a ligament against Corey Sandhagen and now pulled a muscle in the sake of maybe twice. It actually popped out. His shoulder popped out maybe twice in the sake of 5 minutes, which was completely unfortunate and it cost him that title shot. But that does not take away anything to Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling put on an amazing performance last night. He got the job done. He did what he did. He took him down and he kept him on the back. He kept him there back mount and was ground and pounded until he got the job done. Although I did not realize that what actually popped his shoulder out was the first takedown in the first 30 seconds to minute of the fight. And he just landed on his shoulder, and it's very easy to happen in the sports of in any combat sport, in the sport of mixed martial arts, and any type of full contact. And it does happen. It could literally happen to anybody, but it's completely unfortunate that it happened to TJ. And given the time moment that it was for his title shot, his for his third belt going into it, and who knows what could have happened if he didn't. But the way it was going anyway, Aljo had a specific game plan to get that job done and keep him on the in the bottom guide, keep Aljo on the top, and just smash him. And that's what he did. So, as I said before, given the show the whole Sean O'Malley performance, what I think is next for those athletes, I think realistically they are going to make Aljo versus Sean, and TJ might be out for a while. I assume so. But by all means, do I think that he will be back? I do think so, because he lost the fight, but he also got injured. So given his mindset, he will want someone like maybe Piotr Jan, which would be an amazing fight on paper. So whatever's gonna happen next, you do wish TJ a speedy recovery, and congratulations to Aljamain Sterling. No further doubt. And now on to the main event. Charles do Bronx Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev for the vacant lightweight title of the UFC. Just first of all, massive congratulations to Islam Makhachev. Do I think well deserved? I really do. Um, he was the only person, in my completely opinion, who I've actually said on the podcast before. I think Islam is next for the belt after Charles Oliveira. I think if there was somebody to stop him and has the game plan to do it, take away Habib, but he is now retired, I think it's Islam, and Islam definitely had the mindset going into it. Very underrated striking last night from Islam. That southpaw left hand really comes out of it really comes into play when he uses it, doesn't it? And that right hook that dropped Oliver, but first of all, take away the finish, take away the conclusion, which led him to champion. It was great respect from the two competitors, which you could obviously see with everybody from Charles Oliveira. He is a very respectful person and really grants himself to come back and win that belt, according to him. So whatever happens now, Islam is the champion. What is next for him? We saw he called out Alexander Volkanovski. He wants that fight in Australia. They have a potential fight to happen in February, which I am well aware through sources that they're trying to make the pay-per-view in Australia, which would be great, which would probably host the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, which is Alexander Volkanovski, and take him into a super fight with the lightweight champion for a double champion contender potentially, and make that super fight in Australia. That would be amazing. And like I said before, what is next? I think you should give Charles Oliveira to Beneil Dariush and maybe have that for a potential number one contender. We'll see how Poirier versus Chandler takes place at Madison Square Garden next month. But until then, Islam should completely celebrate. It is a well-deserved victory. stuck to the game plan, and what was most impressed, he finished and submitted the statistic fighter with the most finishes and most submissions in the UFC, which was completely impressive. And why he would be able to do that and why he was actually, I was reading, favorite against almost every lightweight who was ranked right now is because he has what other lightweights don't have against a fighter like Charles. He has the related combat sport in his back pocket. He has that grappling that nobody else has, but also the determination to go out of his way and try to submit the guy with the most submissions. That speaks for itself. That when he caught him with that left hook, that right hook, and went in straight for that arm triangle, I think this Charles knew deep down that when he was trying to get out of that guard, and the minute that arm triangle locked in, that was all she wrote. And a completely great game plan. Although Charles was going into a completely one-sided affair, given the location, the audience, the public is saying the commentary, which I do disagree with. But take away, Charles has been there before, and unfortunately, it was not his night. The better fighter won on the night, and without a doubt, do I think he will be back by all means. So what is next for the lightweight division? You have so much coming up. I'm excited. I think the next fight to make between the top fives, you have Justin Gaethje, maybe Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. I think you should make, which is probably going to go ahead for business terms, and which makes a lot of sense, is the potential who's up for the pound for pound number one. You should make Islam versus Volkanovski for the super fight. You should make Charles versus Beneil, and Poirier versus Chandler is already booked. So whatever happens from then, we can go from there. But until then, that was my recap of UFC 280. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you real soon.